It's my honor to be able to speak today. I know there's a lot of people who could have spoken. It's an honor that I get to speak today. I want to start off by telling a little bit about my story, because my story is definitely impacted by Papa C. That's what I used to call him. I never heard about York College growing up. I grew up in a place called Boys Ranch, Texas. I heard of Levitt Christian, I heard of Abilene Christian. My whole family went to Harding University. I never went even to check out Oklahoma because I was from Texas, but I definitely heard about it a lot. So with that being said, York was not something that was just something family that had happened year after year. We sent people to York. In fact, nobody even in my church congregation had mentions of or talked about York ever. So if you would have asked me in the summer of 2001 what I would be doing in 10 years, Nebraska wouldn't have been one of them, for sure. And two, I would have said I'd probably be coaching football because I love football, or maybe wrestling, or maybe baseball. Track, cross country was not anywhere on my radar at all. In fact, I was pretty much dead set on going to play football at Harding University. So my mom had went. My uncle was the dean of Harding Academy there in Searcy, so a lot of connections, beautiful campus. It was kind of where I thought I was going, no matter what. No matter what, that's where I was going to go. Senior year had a little different plans for my future, as God did as well. Had a lot of setbacks my senior year in football. I tore my MCL 3 games in, kind of devastating. I went into wrestling, was ranked #1 in the state of Texas, went to regionals, dislocated my shoulder. They couldn't pop it back in. I had to be taken to the ER, injury defaulted out of the tournament. So as I sat in the bed in my senior year, crying in the emergency room, trying to figure out what did God have planned for my life? What am I going to do now? Play baseball? Baseball's okay, but I don't really love it. Maybe I can walk on somewhere and play football in a year. I don't know what I was going to do, but I thought, I still have 1 season of baseball left, so maybe I can get my shoulder healthy and finish strong there. So my shoulder got healthy, and I decided to go visit Harding University so I could play baseball there. This is April of my senior year. Go up to Harding University. Let me back up. It's not like I didn't do track. I was doing track all through from the time I was young, but track was something in Texas I did to stay in shape for football. And I was good enough to compete, but I didn't think I was a superstar by any means. So I was still doing track, but I thought I'm gonna do baseball. So I went up to Harding University, visit baseball program there, try out, maybe get a scholarship. While I was up there, I realized something just didn't feel right. Something didn't feel right in my stomach. Tryout went okay, nothing great. But it just didn't feel right. And when I had a chance to sit down and start talking with the baseball coach at the time there, he said, well, why don't you check out York College? I said, if it just doesn't feel right here, you can always come back here. Why don't you check out York College? I know the head baseball coach there. We're good friends. And I said, sir, all due respect, I don't feel like I'm going to fit in New York. He laughed just like you did. He said, no, it's in Nebraska. I said, I never heard about it. My mom said, is it a Church of Christ school? It is. That was super important to her. So as soon as she found out it was a Church of Christ school, we were 2 weeks later after track meet headed to York College here in Nebraska to try out and play baseball. I had just got glasses for the first time that week. I don't know if you've gone through your whole life without having glasses and then you get them. It was an adjustment, to say the least. I don't know if it was that or it was divine intervention or it was just the fact that I did not enjoy the baseball coach at the time. I had a terrible tryout. It was absolutely terrible. It was terrible. The funny thing is, this is a funny story. Coach Brian Rolfe was there that day. as an assistant coach. I left that tryout thinking, what a waste. What a waste. I'll be real honest with you, I said, this campus is ugly. It's ugly. It's ugly. I mean, I've been to Harding growing up my whole life. Beautiful stuff, immaculate stuff, tons of money flowing in. I came here, and my mom was like, oh, it's so quaint and beautiful, with the cobblestone and everything else. I thought, it's ugly, it's ghetto. Dorms are ghetto. I just was not impressed at all with the campus. It's probably because I had a bad attitude too. At the time I was trying to think, how do I eat my words and call Harding University back up and say, hey, I kind of changed my mind. Can you give me a chance? It's about that time a blonde, handsome bombshell came into my life. That's Papa C, Dr. Roger Collins. As only happens at your college, somehow he found out that I did do track in high school. And he wanted to sit down and talk. So I was like, yeah, whatever. So we sat down and we started talking. The first thing that really shocked me about Papa C was he didn't ask, what can you do for me? He didn't ask that. All these other coaches have been asking, what's your rushing yards per carry? Or how many home runs? What's your batting average? Or how many wins you have on the season in wrestling? No, that wasn't what he asked me first. His first question was, how's your faith? I'm sitting there in his office thinking, I don't want to be here, for one, and you're asking me how my faith is. So my mom was with me, so I said, great. It's great. And I've been challenged this year because I didn't know what I was going to do. Now I'm here. He went on to talk about he had seen my times, and I did a lot of different events. I wasn't a superstar at Indian High School, but I did a lot, trying to score points for my team. And he started showing me kind of what he thought I could do. But he never talked about what I could do for him, ever. He talked about what I could do for God on a small campus in York, Nebraska. I left. I didn't think much of the meeting. I was still contemplating how I was going to talk to a baseball coach at Harding. And I got a phone call about a week later, maybe less than that, from Dr. Collins. I got phone calls in the past, and the phone calls were, hey, how does your meet go? How'd your game go? I read about this in the paper. He said, how are you doing this week? So I'm doing good. And he continued to ask me how I was doing. He didn't ask about my talent. He didn't ask about how I attended the last meet. He asked how I was doing as a person, as an individual. And it was at that time in my life where I realized there was something different about this man. There was something different about Coach Collins. Because see, I realized all this time in my arrogant mind, I had thought, what can I do? What can the successes I have in life do to bring success for me in the future? Roger Collins taught me it's not about being successful, it's about being significant. And what a significant difference one person can make in your life. I ended up coming to York College, and I hated it my first semester. And I hated it because I didn't invest. I didn't invest in this place. And when I get a chance to talk to students or athletes or whatever, I try to encourage them to invest in your college. Try to invest in your college, because if you don't invest in your college, how can you invest back in you? How are you going to get anything out of it? Anyways, I hated it my first semester, and then track season came along and it was okay. And then I decided to invest in Papa C, in Coach Collins, and see where it would take us. Next year, my sophomore year here at York College, started seeing a little bit of success in track as an athlete, And it wasn't before long, Coach Collins and I were headed to Tennessee, Johnson City, Tennessee, NAI Indoor Nationals. And this is where Papa C changed my life. See, we had a relationship, but we didn't have a deep relationship. We went on this trip, it was just him and I. We got inside our car, little car, drove to the airport. Papa C had not been to an airport in a long time. I don't know how long it had been, but he was freaked out by the security. He did not know what to do with that. So that was a fun time. When we got on the plane, I kept thinking, man, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to talk about? I'm just going to sit there the whole time. I don't want to be rude and put my headphones in. We sat down, we started talking about, Papa C, how did you come to York? You know, how'd you get here? How'd you come to York? He said he came, he got his undergrad, he went to Harding, I believe. He said he was visiting, and Mabry Miller approached him and asked him if he would come back to York and teach. And later on, coach. We didn't know that at the time. Okay. Well, see, if you look at the back of the thing, was his degree in teaching or coaching? It's not. In fact, at the time, he was doing stuff with agriculture. I'm sure him and Mama C had plenty of discussions about what was going to take place in their life after that moment when Mabry Miller approached them. And they had to think long and hard about what happened. And I said, well, what did you do? Why didn't you just keep doing what you were doing? You know, the dream that you had. Why didn't you just keep doing that? And what he said has changed how I view not only your college, but Christian education. He said, I started thinking, if I can go into this and I can help give Christian education to just one more student, so that one more student is touched by Christian education, I'm going to do it. I don't think Coach Collins was ever paid very much as a coach. In fact, I'm sure of that. We never had much of a budget. I remember driving back from many indoor meets, a lot of them in Indiana, and I could not see the road. It was snowing so hard. Well, because the school was in financial trouble and he didn't want to put the school any farther back, we continued to drive and try to keep him up and enjoy those trips. And he sacrificed for the school. And he continued to do that. He continued to do that throughout the time. And he continued to show me what a Christian, godly man was like. And see, that was one thing that I'd always needed in my life that I'd never had from a coach. See, I had football, wrestling, super intense all the time, throwing helmets, throwing stuff. Even my track coach was a football coach. What I got out of a coach from Roger Collins was a quiet nature and a gentle spirit. He's showing what it's like to be peaceful, but still poignant. To be calm, to show Christ in all you do without being wild and crazy. I don't know what it was like. I got one more story and I'll be done. Jerry Stark told me I had 7 minutes. It's been longer than that, so I'll wind this down. I don't know what it was like growing up on family trips, but did you guys get lost much? I mean, some people get lost. When we took trips with Papa C, it was only a matter of time before we were lost. My favorite story of getting lost with Papa C was that same trip, actually in Johnson City, Tennessee. We flew in, that trip, we flew into Nashville, Tennessee. We got in around 8 o'clock. We had to rent a car and drive to Johnson City, Tennessee. It's about 4 hours away. Okay, do the math. What time are we going to be home? Or what time are we going to be in our room checking in? Around midnight. I was tired, long day. You know, we had to help Papa C all through that security. That was exhausting. We get in the car. I sit there and I'm thinking, man, I'm tired. I'll go to sleep. I go to sleep and I wake up. I mean, it's 1:30 in the morning. And we're still driving. Papa C's whistling. I'm looking for signs. I said, Papa C, shouldn't we be there by now? Nope, haven't seen the sign. So for another 15 minutes, we continue to drive. And I think, this is not right. And I said, Papa C, did we have a blowout while I was asleep and you fixed it without me knowing it? Nope. Kept driving. This was about the time when I noticed, I don't know if you did this at family, but he used to say, okay, all the time. He started saying that repeatedly. And I said, okay, maybe we should pull over and see where we're at. So finally I convinced him that we should stop at a rest station. And we get out, and I was like, oh, I think I convinced him to use the restroom, but I didn't. I just want to know where we were at. So I go to a rest area, I look at a map, and there's not a map of Tennessee, it's a map of North Carolina. That's no joke. And it had one of those big red dots that said, this is where you are here. I don't know if Papa C was pulling my leg or what, but he just went to the bathroom and came out like we were ready to go. I said, Papa C, you should see this. I don't think we're headed in the right direction. We passed our exit, obviously. And we went back. You know, it's funny to think about all the times I got lost with Coach Collins, Papa C. I can sit here and tell you tons and tons of stories about the trips that we had and the impact it made on my life. For the beef jerky that Mama C used to make, which we would gobble in the first hour of any trip. But what I really want to say is, I got lost tons of times with Papa C. I never knew where I was going to go. But in all honesty, this institution, especially the track and field cross-country programs, would be lost without the significance that he had on this place in our program. It's my honor to be here today with family and with everybody here who are celebrating in a man who knew success was more than just what you do. Because it wasn't just about success, it was about significance. And his significant impact on our lives here will last forever.